Good evening, Super League fans. It's the return of the midweek review show that not sure that we've all been waiting for, but it's the return of it anyway. So we'll see how it goes, and if it's to everyone's liking, it'll make a permanent return perhaps. So what the objective is of tonight is to have a quick look at some of the results that we had on Sunday at the weekend. Just look at some of the performances, some key players. We'll pick out a couple of the teams and we'll speak a little bit about the transfers they've been doing and how they've been doing in general. 2020 has just started, of course, for us, and the teams have had a couple of goals here after the Christmas period, and then we're already starting to see the effects of that or the impact of that. But without further ado, let's have a look at some of the results. We can maybe add that the Midlothian manager Ian was kind of supposed to join us, or had an idea that he might be able to join us, but he unfortunately won't make it to the studio on time. So we'll have a go without him. And if anyone in the comment section wants to participate or ask questions, or if there's screens you want to see, then now is your opportunity. I'm open to click on players and everything. So if Ian or Ryan or any of the other guys who are there are interested, then please do give me a shout. We'll start in the reverse order. So with the games at the bottom, as that was how they were shown at the weekend. So first up, we had Panathinaikos against Valin United. Panathinaikos not in the best of form of late, and Valin United, apart from a defeated Bolton, I think they've been doing pretty well so far. We've got Panathinaikos. If we look at the way the match panned out, it was obviously a pretty dominant performance from Valin United here. Saviola really being the key player for Valin. Ebesan got a goal for Panathinaikos, but it was too little too late, especially after Bud was sent off. I mean, there might have been some hope of someone pulling a goal back for Panathinaikos early in the second half, but after that sending off for Bud, I think it was curtains. If we look at the match report really quickly, I mean, it obviously started very well for Valin United. Had a free kick which was taken by Olise for some reason. I'm not sure why he's taken quickly by Olise. Maybe that's why he just picked it up and had a go. Cross to Saviola, and he scored for an early lead. An unlikely assist by Olise, I would suggest. Then it was pretty much even Stevens up until just before half time. Nakata, who's been doing relatively well of late for Valin United, put in a low cross to the box, and Saviola again had plenty of room and eventually scored. Plenty of room against Panathinaikos. The formation is perhaps not entirely unexpected, but it has been working okay so far. And again, just before half-time, Saviola was there again. Cafu this time with a free kick, and Saviola with a header towards the goal. His hat-trick and his 10th goal of the season. Second half passed without a huge amount of incident, apart from when Battaglia took on Butt. Butt, of course, made that tackle that saw him at the end of a red card. And then pretty much Valin, I think, just trying to see it out until the end of the match without getting too many injuries or anything. Jagatos, who's been excellent for Panathinaikos all season, went on a bit of a crazy run and went past Cafu amongst other people, and Battaglia twice, and Lasisi and everyone. Great cross, sand headed the goal. So a lot of headers in this game, and ultimately that was the last action of the game, was that sand header. If we have a quick look at the player ratings. Panathinaikos weren't even that bad, apart from Nicky Butt sent off and Paul Robinson getting a 5. Not too bad, but Valin United, very impressive, very steady performance from them, and Saviola obviously being the man of the match, making the difference. If we're looking at the assists, as we already discussed, one came from Olise, and Nakata got the second, and the final one was from Cafu. Cafu, who's really proving to be the player of the season for pretty much everyone. Not least for Valin, 8.24 average is pretty wild, and 8 assists in 17 games. And of course, he's not in his absolutely natural position. He is mainly playing in a DMCR or DMRC, whichever way you want to put the letters, but doing exceptionally well. Of course, brilliant stats and some longevity in there as well. I mean, he's going to last another couple of seasons at least at this level. So a very shrewd signing for Valin or Luck. I can't remember if he had him from the beginning, but definitely player play of the season for him so far, in my opinion. Saviola has obviously come in very, very strong and didn't score that many goals at the start of the season, but is really coming on strong now with his great acceleration, agility, and that's probably what puts him in the position to make those headers. Because of course, as we know, Saviola is not the tallest or the best header of the ball, but he has been doing very, very well, especially in the last couple of games. We can see his ratings here are very solid. 10 goals as well for the season so far. Totti perhaps a little bit of a disappointment considering his stats and his reputation, but yeah, not the worst either, not the worst. 721 and 4 goals, can't be entirely unhappy with that. If we're looking at Panathinaikos from the starting lineup that we had here, I mean, Giorgatas is really one of the players of the season for Parma. He's done exceptionally well, 5 assists. Oliver Dacour, maybe not the best, coming in, and 718, maybe expecting a little bit more from a strong central midfielder. And then we've got someone like Pavel Nedved as well, who's, I mean, a little bit blown hot and cold, which has been unfortunate for Parma, that a lot of the players have been like that this season. Ebersand, though, keeping it up with the goals. That's his 11th of the season, and really performing quite well there. If we have a quick look at each team and their dealings, their transfer dealings so far. So the only 2 players to join Panathinaikos so far were Niki Butt and Harasimovic, and of course it's early to tell, but Niki Butt with his 4 games and 2 assists, 750 average. Unfortunately, he then got sent off, but he has been a relatively good signing for Panathinaikos. Harasimovic is lesser known player. He's got a 7 average so far. He had a 7 average before. I think he's maybe one for the future, but Parma's obviously bringing him in early to ensure that that development and that he'll blossom into a superstar in the near future. So I would probably say it as a 6 out of 10, probably a kind 6 out of 10 for the transfer dealings for Panathinaikos. If we have a look at Andreas instead and his transfer dealings. He's brought in Lasisi, who's been very, very solid performer so far, 750 average in his 4 games. He's brought in Pinardi, who had a couple of substitute appearances, not really had a chance to do much, and rather excitingly, he's brought in Peter Cech for 2.5 million. I think I might have thought it was 2 million. Either way, he's brought in Peter Cech, so maybe we'll see him later on this season when if he secures the title early on or something like that, he might give him a go, and if not, he's certainly a decent backup for next season, or even for now if one of his keepers should get injured. Moving on to the Dragons Midlothian game, we had the man of the match performance from Ryan Giggs, and back on the score sheet again for Midlothian. Looking at the match overview, it was a relatively early back goal and a relatively late Keane equaliser. Robbie Keane, of course, being the guy that Dragon Destroyers rely quite heavily on. As you can see here, not much happened in the beginning of the game, but Eric Addo, who's who's been a bit of a left back, assist maker, everything kind of person. Crossed the ball into the area, back got up and scored the header. He is very strong, and as we discussed, he has the stats for those kind of goals. In the second half, there was a yellow card for Klumpe. Apart from that, not a lot happened until Giggs decided to throw in a cross, and again, Keane found himself in plenty of space. He's been doing that all season for Dragon Destroyers. Unfortunately, not really enough, but for them to make any kind of impression on the table. But a solid performance from Robbie Keane, and definitely along with Giggs, their player of the season so far. Looking at Midlothian, I mean, a solid performance apart from Kessman and to some extent Mpensa. He had a bit of an experimental lineup for the strikers. Ian with some arrows that didn't really work and some other things, but defensively it was a very solid performance from the side, and of course a point away from home is not what they're used to, so they'll be relatively pleased with that. Ryan Giggs getting the goal here again. Solid performances from all the players. No one really stands out as a terrible example of how not to play the game. Ryan Giggs, very, very impressive. Kind of enjoying his life at left wing back, surprisingly, but he's done okay for Dragon Destroyers so far this season. Not really anything else to highlight apart from Robbie Keane, obviously, with his 9 goals in 13 games. Very, very important for the club, and basically it's I think it's his pace that an acceleration that just takes him into the box, and then he's there to put those chances away. For Midlothian, Roberto Carlos has obviously come in. We'll have a look at him in a second. Kessman has played a bunch of games this season, especially as Mpensa had a few injuries. 15 games, 8 goals, 740 average. Milan Penta 11 goals, 11 games, 6 goals, slightly lower average, and perhaps a lot less than what you'd expect from a player of his quality. He has got back in. We'll look at him in a second. Apart from that, there's no one really to pay much attention to. Eric Addo perhaps has been quite impressive in his performances in the various roles across the defensive midfielding zone. Great stats, and he has got 3 assists as well. So pretty impressive actually for Eric Addo. If we're looking at, let's have a look at Jamie's side first, Dragon Destroyers. Their transfer dealings have been Pavel Brosek, who has got off to a reasonably good start. He's very young. His stats are definitely not bad, but he is really quite young. 4 games, and perhaps on a slightly more free scoring side or slightly better side, he would have had a better return already. But 4 games, a goal and 2 assists and 725 average for Dragon Destroyers, who are near the bottom, is definitely not a bad thing. Alan Shearer, we've not seen much of so far. He came in, had a terrible game, and yeah, well, let's see. 15 million is a lot of money for a player, and not to use him. But yeah, it's an area the Dragons have struggled in really this season up front, and to do with the various options they have and when to play them and who to keep and who to sell, etc. We'll see if they find form towards the end of the season. But Alan Shearer definitely not one with a great debut. Mr. Campbell and his side here, his transfers, if we're looking at them, there's Roberto Carlos came in. He's been very solid, 677 is what you expect from him. You always like to see him scoring goals, but I don't think he actually scored that many in real life, and not in the game either. 20 set pieces, maybe setting him up for taking corners or something might be worth giving it a shot, but who knows? The corner taking stat, of course, is hidden, so we can't be too sure. He's brought in back as well. The one that half the Super League wanted with his 20s and his great stats. His history has maybe not been the best, but at least he's off to a decent start at his Midlothian career. 3 games and 2 goals. Not really dominating as yet, but probably I was going to say he needs to learn the language, but he speaks fluent English, of course, as you would expect. And the last one, I don't think we've seen yet, is Igor Dulac. So an exciting Yugoslavian, possibly whatever nation he is in real life, I'm not sure, or in current day, but at this point in history, he's Yugoslavian. Promising, very, very promising talent. Signed for 5 million for Partizan, so we're expecting big things from him. We'll see how he gets on for Midlothian later on this year when he starts getting games. Maybe next week when he starts playing with fullbacks. Who knows? Oh gosh, I only gave a score to the first one, didn't I? I said 6 out of 10 for Palmer. Good transfer business for me. And how would you score it, Ian, the other Ian? I would probably say, I mean, considering the price that he paid for those players, I would probably say it's a 7 or an 8 actually, depending on how they go later on in the season. Let's have a quick look at Valence transfers as well. Lasisi, Pinardi, and Czech. I think Lasisi has come in and done really well and a good price. Pinardi is very, very promising, great stats, and lastly Peter Cech for, I mean, maybe overpaid a little bit, but you know. That's it. That's a good 7 as well. That's a good 7 as well. I mean, not really a big name in there to take it up to an 8, 9, 10, but I would say a 7 for that. With regards to Dragons, buying Brosek, I'll give him 4 points for that and 1 or 2 points for Shearer. So maybe a 5 or a 6 for his transfer dealings. I would have liked to see him bring in another creative attacking midfielder, but there you go. You can't have it all. Moving swiftly on, Churchtown massive against Somerset Sloth. So this was really the upset of the evening. Sloths who have been improving dramatically recently. I think they had a 4-2 win last time out, and they did well again. Michael Ballack really impressing in that central midfielding role. Rivaldo doing well on the attacking left-sided midfielder. Perhaps overshadowed by Francesco Coco, who got a 10. Quite impressive performance for him for Churchtown, but of course not enough to win them the game. Started off well enough for them. Ballack got the early goal, but Mackay and Ferguson soon equalised and put Churchtown back ahead. But in the second half, it was really Ballack who ran the show. He scored on the 58th minute, and then 10 minutes before time, Rivaldo got the goal. Early shot for Ballack. I think it was a follow-up. Apparently, Coco curled in a corner for Mackay. Coco laid the ball off for Ferguson, so 2 assists for him. Ferguson, who's of course is one of the best central midfielders in the league so far. And then someone says Sloth. Ballack came back into it. Speculative effort from him. And then finally Rivaldo had that kind of thing, picked up a loose ball or something like that to get the winner for Sloth 10 minutes before time. Not a lot they could do. Coco tried, but it was just a difficult chance. But Mackay was surrounded by defenders, so Sloth's hanging on for dear life right at the end. Successfully so. Looking at the players, as we said already, Coco has been really exceptional for Georgetown. Has almost up to an 8 average now for him. A couple of assists, and obviously he's going to be more and more important as they're without Estebaria, who will come to shortly. John Welsh is also coming on here, 767. He's done quite well. He's looks like he's going to be the replacement. Lilian Thuram, perhaps not with the best performance, struggled to get a tune out of Maldini recently. So Silvestre has been playing, but not particularly well. So maybe it's not just about getting the high scores, but that consistency with Maldini might be better for Georgetown. Ian Robin, still very young in the game, of course. 7.14 average is pretty good. 4 goals, no assists, which is perhaps surprising from a player of his quality. The guy to watch has been Barry Ferguson, who's got almost an 8 average, and what you get in ice hockey, 12 points or something like that for 4 goals and 8 assists. So really an influential player, and has won a couple of games for Georgetown definitely this season, and they did very poorly without him. Oliver Kahn is the captain. He never gets a lot of people talking about him, but there are no players with more 20s at the start of the game than him, I will bet. Edgar Davids had a couple of injuries. He's also one of the ones with many 20s. He's back in now and doing really well for Georgetown, so that could also be important for them for the rest of the season. If we're looking at Somerset's lost their performance, it's difficult to pick out specific players because he's been chopping and changing, especially early doors. There was a lot of players coming in and going out. Rivaldo has done really well, has been a consistent for him. Lots of goals and assists, very, very important in that attacking role. Ndiaye, we'll get to him in a bit. Who else has played regularly? It's difficult to say. Christian Verns has played pretty much all the games, not particularly well. Ballack has really been involved mostly recently. He had a couple of games at the start of the season, and now he's back in. 11 games and 8 goals, very impressive from him. Giovanni van Bronckhorst, who had a man of the match last time out, or a couple of weeks ago, I can't remember. I'm sure he was man of the match. Maybe it was at 9. Perhaps not the best, but the Sloth's defensive side is maybe not what they're focusing on. We can have a look at Georgetown Massive and their squad actually, and their transfers if you want to have a look at that. So Igor Tudor has joined from Bolton Phoenix. I think that's a very good signing. He certainly got good stats. He's young, promising. He did quite well for Bolton in the games that he did play. Not really featured a lot. Well, once, and he got 6. Not the best. And 13 million, maybe a little bit expensive. Who knows? And the other guy who joined is Ishola Shuaibu, who's an exciting prospect. 2 games, 7.5 average. He was rested to see how Welsh would work instead in that defensive role, and I think he got an 8 the last time out, so who knows. 15 million for those two. I would say again that's probably a 6. Nothing game changing, I think, but just a couple of solid backup players, so half decent transfer activity from Georgetown, but he does have a very strong squad that is difficult to build on, which perhaps is part of the reason why he didn't do any further shopping. Who did they play? They played Sloths, so we'll have a look at Mr. Marshall and his Sloth side and their transfers. They brought in 2 players so far. They brought in Kaka from Chudley Cannons, 7.25 average, very young and promising, as many of these kids are still, and they're not really established superstars with high stats yet. And Asana Ndiaye, who he brought from Dragons, not had the best. He was really played really well. I mean, 7.25 average, perhaps not the highest, but he was quite influential for Dragons. He's yet to kind of find his feet. Maybe it's a slightly different formation or different instructions that they have at Sloss, but he's yet really to find his feet. I would say that's probably, I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that Ndiaye has been performing so poorly, I might give him a 6, but I think it's maybe a 5. I'm not sure he really strengthened where he should have strengthened. Kaka, I think he had decent cover. Ndiaye, maybe he had half decent players already in some of those positions, but you can't fault him for the form that he's had recently. So 1-2 wins, a narrow defeat at Astor, and then a couple of draws, a couple of wins. So really quite a strong form from Sloss of late. So not too bad. I'll give him a. I'll give both teams. I think should have a 5 probably for their transfer activities. But they are doing relatively well, of course. Both Georgetown and Midlothian. We're looking at Chutley Cannons. We're looking at B-Tech Troopers. So this was pretty much one-sided. I did promise to be kind to Ian. I'll do my best. I'll have a sip of the wine and and see what I can do. But that kind of speaks for itself a little bit about how that game went. First up, we had Gallardo with the early goal. Stam pulled one back, and it looked actually as if B-Tech were going to hold on, probably thanks to Buffon. Of course, it was unlucky that Saeed got injured again, only just coming back from injury. But they held on till about 10 minutes before time. I think let's have a look how the goals came. Gallardo ran past a bunch of people and scored. Jaap Stam, that's got to be a header. Yeah, climbed up. Mark Kerr against Jaap Stam. That's yeah. Why was he marking him? Okay, never mind. I'm sure someone thought that was a good idea. Have you seen Mark Kerr in real life? He's about 5'3" or something. Anyway, Kerr then somehow won a header, headed the ball down for Rossini, who then scored, which was a superb team move allegedly. I think was it here that Estebaria had a he had a header here which was ruled out for offside, but fortunately for him, the ball came straight back to the penalty area, and Estebaria found some space and hit it with his right foot and scored, roaming forward unmarked, as it happens frequently in this game. And then at the end of it, there was really probably 1 or 2 chances maybe for B-Tech, but majority of the chances were for Chutley Cannons, and they could have probably made it 4 or 5 in this game, considering the amount of chances they had. Buffon got an 8. We won't really look at him because we'll look at him when we speak about the transfers. There's Contra and Chibu, who actually done quite well so far this season. I mean, a 7 average, 7.38. Not setting the world alight, but half decent players. Unfortunate that Saeed got injured, considering how terrible Vogel's been playing. Kieran Dyer back to getting a 6, which is kind of unfortunate, par for the course-ish for him. The guys who have been performing, or the guy who has been performing, is Martin Palermo with his 12 goals in his 8 goals rather in his 12 games. So he's been decent for B-Tech. So let's hope they can hang on to that. Danielson obviously came on. Would you start him ahead of one of the others, of Agahawa? Or Agahawa can play on the right as well. He's either footed, so you could play him on the right and dump Dyer for that added creativity. Who knows? It's just a suggestion. I think that was probably the least of his worries. I mean, not much creativity, but allowing that many chances is obviously not ideal. Chutley Cannons, they've been rotating a lot, changing players in some positions and being very steady in others. So Roy Carroll with a great, I was going to say a great performance. He had a decent debut, and he had a good performance here as well. Perhaps not a long-term solution for Chutley, but they have really struggled with goalkeepers this season. Mourinho's been okay at the back, I guess, for them, a 7 average, but nothing spectacular. Hippie the same. They did obviously suffer from conceding about 40 goals in 3 games. Just a couple of weeks ago on that run they had just before Christmas and into the new year, but yeah, there's improvement all around for someone like Stephen Finnan, who's almost at an 8 average, doing really well in the defensive midfield. Medina, who will probably be better one day, and Van Bommel, who was maybe underperformed a little bit, but half decent players, and it's good to see Mark Kerr getting in there. I mean, he could do a little bit to up his average because he had such a poor start to the season, but his stats are all obviously already great, so he's certainly someone that they can, for Chutley's sake, hope rely on a lot in the future. We'll come to Estebaria shortly. Fausto Rossini, top scorer in the league, 13 goals. There's not really much you can say about him other than that's a shame that he wasn't in the first Super League, because then maybe Pensa and other guys would have a bit of more of a run for the money. But yeah, on the face of it, maybe not the very best stats, but Chutley Cannons definitely getting the most out of him. Deserved result probably for Chutley. They're looking at the play, and if we go to have a look at the distribution of the chances, we've seen them already. We'll go and have a look at the transfers. Chudley with pretty decent, some pretty decent. Oh, does MDS need scouting? If you wanted to buy him, Ian, yes, he does need scouting because some of the players we have Fog of War on, or whatever it's called in this, hidden attributes, or whatever it's called in this game. That's why you need to scout. So occasionally you won't see the stats of the players if they are low. So unless I'm actually actively Chudley, so if I go now Chudley and I go, oh, let's have a look at whoever it was, Nicolas Medina, or was it Mendes da Silva that we were talking about, then I can see it now, but you can't see him when you're looking from the other manager's perspective. Of course, it doesn't matter because I'll just change if I want to have a look. Either way, the transfers for Chudley Cannons, Estebaria, 15 million, a bargain probably. He was exceptional for Churchtown early on in the season, 7 games and 5 assists. As you can see from the stats here, Chudley are obviously using him in a completely different role to even greater effect. 850 average, 4 games, 4 goals, and yeah, a brilliant bit of business there for Chudley. Of course, he did have some disciplinary problems, etc., at Churchtown, and that was why he was forced to sell him. Still, 15 million is a great price. He brought in Amoroso, who, I mean, he's had a game and a goal. He's a great backup striker, forward left. He can probably play in that attacking role as well with his great flair and his acceleration and his pace. So a shrewd bit of business from Chudley Cannons as well. And finally, Roy Carroll. Yeah, everyone's laughing. Roy Carroll's terrible. He's got 750 average. Come on, it's not bad. With the problems that Chudley had with Frey, Westerveld, I think he just decided to cash in and on those guys, and hopefully he'll be able to pick up something else. I mean, 10 million for Frey. Maybe it's a bargain, but yeah, if you concede that many goals, then at some point you're going to lose your temper. So he'll do a job. I mean, it's not as if he hasn't got options. He's still got Paluca as well, who came in and did terribly, yeah. And Westerveld has done relatively poor as well. He had a 4, a 7, and a 5. I mean, you got to drop him. So he's got the options there anyway. Either way, not enough about Chudley Cannons and their goalkeeping worries. There's another team here with some worries. It's BTEC Troopers. They did do a good bit of business. Quite a lot of money was spent by BTEC here at Buffon for 20 million, but he desperately needed a keeper. He's got 4 games and he's got an 8 average. Really doing the job for BTEC here, as he absolutely wasn't that sloth, but that might have been for other reasons. Anyway, 20 million is the price you have to pay for Buffon, who's probably one of the top goalkeepers stats wise and reputation wise in the league. Rio Ferdinand again under 20 million. Again, Andreas was looking to sell him because of the impact that he had on the squad. Ian brought him in. I was probably delighted again to get him for under 20 million. It's going to be a solid starter for him. He'd done really well at Valen as well, but the rest of the team unfortunately hated him, so he had to go. And finally, Adilson, who was brought in from Flamengo. He is old. He's old. That's all I can say about him. But he has brilliant stats still. He's a little bit like Cafu. He's one of those who, if he gets to play regularly and if he can avoid injuries, he's going to be great for another 2 or 3 seasons, definitely. 10 million, I mean, that's the price. That's the going price for established names. So 48 million spent in total is... Yeah, I'm going to give Ian a 9 out of 10, maybe 8.5, 9. He's bought the right players that he desperately needed. It's a lot of money to spend in the first window. It's a lot of money to spend. But, yeah, we'll see. Ryan, that's definitely not true. Definitely not true. Either way, it could be true because I did do a trial test run with I think 60 or 70 players that were identified by all of the managers, and I did a trial run and tried to buy all of them and found out what the price was and whether they would be able to or willing to join the Super League rather. So if I had said at some point that they would have said no, then that was the case at the time. You could have insisted. That's what I'm trying to say. Back to the review. This is going quite well. It's not taking ages, is it? And then you're not dying of boredom, I hope. Next up, we've got Bolton Phoenix against Hoddesdon Hornets. So this was a dominant performance from Phoenix. They're really on top form at the moment. 12 of 13 unbeaten, I think, something like that. Doing very, very well. Dede, Raul, and Figo. So some of the really established names getting the goals here, and nothing from Hoddesdon, who were trying out a new tactic. And do you want to try out a new tactic away to Bolton Phoenix, league leaders, unbeaten in a million games, when you've kind of got a reasonably sort of okayish working tactic? I mean, it's obviously at the manager's discretion. Craig has gone with his new formation, tried something out, and see what happens. 2 people short of a sold-out stadium, by the way. Very impressive. Home fans must be very happy with the way the team is performing at the moment. I think it's the phrase that we're using. So solid from Bolton, as we said, not letting in, not allowing Hornets a lot of chances, and just creating a few themselves, but obviously very good chances that they went on to take. Dede blasted the goal towards the top corner, so quite unusual for him. Across from Sambrata, who's been awesome. We'll come to him in a minute. Donny then picked up an injury for no apparent reason and had to go off. Dede then came up with a great cross to Raul, who found the net for first or second time this season, maybe. I can't remember. We looked at it the other day as well, but he's not done particularly well so far. But good to see him get a goal anyway. And finally, Figo found himself in some space. Figo's been great, obviously, for Ryan this season. So it's not surprising that Figo got the goal, but perhaps surprising that he's been doing quite so well this season. Batistuta had a late goal ruled out of offside. Looking at Craig's stats first, he's had players who've done really well all season so far, but obviously just didn't really turn up today or didn't get the best out of them in this formation. Hurtado has probably been a disappointment. They does speak basic English, and he's pleased to be a successful club, so there's hope for him yet, and for the team. Lucio's been doing quite well, solid defender there. Someone that I think a lot of people would probably like to see in their defense as well, but Craig's getting a decent performance out of him. Not the best stats, maybe. Paul Scholes, 733. He's been a regular starter, done a decent job as well for Hornets. I mean, that does include the continental games. I'm not entirely sure if that's really fair to count their average. Maybe if we look at the league average for the Hoddesdon Hornets players. Let's have a look at the Lucatone and illustrate why. Because 750 in the league, 2 games, 2 goals. Obviously, his stats are massively inflated by that Oceania Cup run, which they absolutely hammered everyone. Andrea says that I would much rather try out a new unknown tactic where it's already okay to lose, rather than a home game I have to win against a playoff rival. That's a fair point. It is a bit of a free hit. There's not much criticism that can be sort of thrown at Craig, and for it to probably stick. I mean, Bolton have been making light work of a lot of teams recently, so that is perhaps a fair one. But I would have maybe thought he would have tried to stick with the same and hope for the draw. But a fair point. Etu came on and did okay. Again, difficult to look at the stats here, so we're looking up here for Craig's players. Really, 612, 714 average. Yeah, we've seen better. Sigalko, we'll probably see him returning. He's done really well in the league. 13 games and 8 goals and a very good average rating. And he did well in the Oceania Cup as well, despite having some randomly low stats. But we all know Sigalko. He's pretty good. He's a pretty good player. Back to Bolton. I'll just let you enjoy Dede's performance for a quick second here. So a 10 for him with a goal and an assist. Really settled the game early on for Bolton, actually, with his goal and that assist, setting up Raul for the header. Raul getting an 8 and the goal there. 2 goals and 15. Not what we want to see from Raul if we're managing him. Figo, on the other hand, that's 9 goals for him now. He's been very, very solid and happy to stay at the club. He's not requesting transfers or anything at the moment, so really good for him. Sabrata getting an assist as well. He's up to 8 assists as well, along with Kafbu, probably kind of equal to him in the performance stakes. Alex have been vital to the run, or do I remember wrongly? He's really solid. Well, let's have a look. I think solid is exactly the word, and I think did the run coincide with Alex coming in to the side as well? I mean, it was definitely a case of moving Gary Neville to centre back and putting Zambrotta on that right wing. I think that was the key. But definitely Alex, he's come in. I can't remember who used to play there, or maybe it's a formation change. But yeah, Alex definitely been an important part of it. Verong also doing okay. It's obviously two attacking midfielders playing in sort of central midfielder roles. But yeah, maybe Ryan himself can answer that in the comments, what he thinks about Alex's performance and how important he's been to the team. Let's have a look at the away side first. Huddeston Hornets. Let's check out Craig's squad. Plenty of injuries. Good news for whoever he's playing next. Churchtown. Oh yeah, Kiel. Yeah, that's true. And Sinoni. Is Sinoni injured? Well, we'll see that in a minute, whether he's injured or not. Let's have a look. Anyway, Huddeston Hornets transfer activity. Even Hurtado, nope. Stilian Petrov, yes, absolutely. Sebastian Frey, 6 games and he's conceded 3 goals, and they were all against Bolton, but of course the other 5 were in the Oceania Cup, so it's early to say. He's very young. His stats are very good, but very young. 10 million, I mean, everyone seems to think that taking Roy Carroll for 5 million was a terrible idea. Is selling Frey for 10 million bad business from Chudley? Smart business from Craig? How do we score this transfer? I would say the Petrov deal is brilliant. Petrov is a super great player that I'm not sure why he wasn't in the league. He's only 22. He's got brilliant stats. He's already performing exceptionally well for the team. He is Bulgarian, so that's one thing to obviously look out for when we buy these, or when you buy these foreign players. They can obviously take part in international tournaments, and I'm not sure how the fixtures are compared to the Australian, if it's like a global international calendar, but we'll see. Frey deal is a 10 out of 10, and for 10 million, yeah, it's a good deal. Petrov deal, 15 million. It's a little bit more expensive when you buy the players from outside of the league. Some of the teams, especially if they're great players, they're not so willing to let them go, so I think 15 was fair for that. And then we'll just ignore Hurtado. He might still come good. I mean, look at his stats. He's got 1 million caps. He plays for that country, Ecuador. Yeah, so I would probably give him as well an 8.5 for that one. 8.5. Hurtado's not really worked out yet. If he comes good, this is a 9. This is a solid 9, definitely for the overall transfer window for Huddeston. So quite impressive bit of business for them. We'll have a quick look at the table and speak a little bit about how things are going for various people later on. Let's have a look at Ryan and his squad. There's a couple of empty spaces there, so someone has sold more players than they've bought. Oh, it's the Devils. Good evening, Fifey. We haven't spoken about your team yet. Lucky you. We'll get to you in a minute. First up, we're looking at Bolton Phoenix. First up, we're looking at whatever happened in here. Where's Kale? There he is. He's unhappy now for some reason. He probably wants a new contract. Maybe, let's see. Yeah, he wants a new contract. That's it. 689. Yeah, so Alex has definitely done better than him. Senoni is still doing okay. He's still doing a fine job, but he's playing in the defensive midfielder role now, actually. So pretty good. Bolton Phoenix's transfers. Wes Brown for 13 million. I think it's a bad deal because I don't like Wes Brown, but and he hasn't played well either, and he's unhappy. But he might come good. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I think 13 million. You can buy someone else just because. Wes Brown, you know what I mean? Vincenzo Montella, 26. I think it's a considering that Alan Shearer went the other way for 15. Was it? Alan Shearer went the other way for 15. Robbie Fowler to Lazio. I forgot about that. Right? Okay, that's unusual. Anyway, considering that Alan Shearer went the other way for 15 million, I think it's a good deal. 26 million is a lot of money, but he will consistently score goals, I think, which is perhaps what Ryan was looking for. 3 games, 3 goals. You can't say fairer than that, really. Well, I mean, you could obviously have like someone. Is it Morientes who's got more goals in games? But anyway. He's got 3 or 4 seasons left in him at the very top level as a top goal scorer. So 26 million. If it means that oh, hello Alf, well, thank you for joining us. I've got a feature with some players that you picked out coming up shortly, so we're looking forward to that. Stay tuned for that, guys. Alf has found some fantastic talents. Our actual real life scout, although the scouting this time has clearly been done on the computer. Alf has found some players. Alf has scouted them so we can see the stats, and we'll bring them up on the screen at the end of the show. Ryan making a profit. Is Ryan making a profit? Let's have a look. Play us out. 54 million, yes. Although I do think that the Robbie Fowler deal is money over time, so currently maybe at a slight deficit, but it'll come good in the end. You could learn something, maybe. You could learn something. Anyway, decent bit of business for Bolton. He hasn't done. I'm not going to give a lot of points for the West Brown transfer, but I will give a solid 5 points for the Montella one, and then you can add 1, 2, or 3, whatever you want for West Brown. At 13 million, I would probably give him a 1 or a 2 extra, so a 6 or 7 for Bolton. Could have brought in another player, although I'm not entirely sure which position he would really need to strengthen. It's a pretty strong squad that he's got there already, Ryan. To be fair, so that'll be a tough one for someone to catch up with him. I mean, we can see the table here, obviously, but it's a big jump from Astor Hooligans Chudley up to Bolton now, I think. Anyway, as I was saying, we still have 2 more games to talk about. First up, we'll talk about Astor Athletic and Swindon Devils. So excellent timing of you, Alf and Stevie, to join now. Zanetti. I'll do what I promised to Alf, and I'll speak about Zanetti and his man of the match performance, and probably his performance of the season game that he had here. If we're looking at the stat screen, which I like to do, notice the goalkeeper pass completion rate by Jens Lehmann. I fully approve. Javier Zanetti, 51 passes, 46 completed, a very high percentage. As you can all work out, that's roughly 90%. 2 key passes, some solid tackles when he had to make them. He did them. Of course, they're mostly made in the center of defense, but he did that. Superb in the air, winning pretty much everything. He even got an assist, and he had a shot, and it was on target, and he actually scored it, and he finishes the game on 83 fitness. It's really an impressive performance from Zanetti here, and he has been very, very solid for Astor this season. Of course, some people have complained about him being played slightly out of position, so he's been in the center, even sometimes on the left. He's playing now in the Cafu position, and that really seems to suit these DAMRs, this position. Cafu's been excellent there, and Zanetti's been excellent there as well, of course. So maybe that's something from Mr. Campbell at Midlothian for his new Duliaj signing, to see that that's really a good role for these DMRs with the great stats. Not to compare the young Yugoslavian with Zanetti and Cafu, of course, but definitely something that he could look at. If we're looking at, where do we see this one again? Is there a pass completion somewhere? Pass completion 75%, which is pretty good. I think the highest in the league are roughly about 80. So that was a good performance from Zanetti, getting his 90 pass completion in this game. So there we go. One of the performances of the season, although I think that someone was a Tristan or Montella that scored 4 goals in one game. That was also pretty decent, if we're being completely honest. Del Piero getting a couple of goals, which is not unusual, but he hasn't gotten that many so far this season. Currently injured, not good news for Alf. Brook, who I'm not a big fan of, and I'm not a fan of 7-10 averages either, especially for an AMC type player, but still 10 games, 5 goals, not the worst, I guess. Håkan Mild, he had a couple of good games when he first came in. This one was not a great one, but he has got really good stats, and he will work in that role. I'm sure that Alf will get him firing on all cylinders sooner rather than later. Actually, just to have a quick look at this, it was a first half madness. I didn't really want to go through this because there were so many goals, but we've done it for the other ones, so why not? Del Piero with a long run, scoring a goal. Remember, I could hardly keep up. I couldn't even talk about the goals as they happened. Cambiasso with an assist there for Tomadera, I think. Looks as if Kluivert chipped the ball towards the penalty area, and new boy here scored. Biede, we'll come back to him. Zanetti with a good run past Cambiasso, his fellow countryman, and a fine strike. Then Aikana could catch up, and then Del Piero did something. Hasselbank headed the ball down for Del Piero. Del Piero scored. Then it kind of calmed down a little bit, and then there was a cross from Zanetti for that Brooking goal, his 5th of the season. And then in the second half, of course, like pretty much nothing happened that anyone ever want to talk about. If we look at the Swindon Devils side, there was a solid performance from Esteban Cambiasso in the defensive midfielder role. Patrick Kluivert and Tomadera did well up front, but the rest of the team were really not 100% at the races. They struggled to really contain the Alf machine and their rush towards goal. Especially Del Piero was a bit of a surprise for me that he was so effective in a game like that. I would expect him to maybe get the odd goal here and there in smaller victories, but to be fairly dominant, getting 2 out of 4 goals is not what I would expect from him. But Alf's got to be pleased with that. pleased with the result in general, and pleased with the performance. Although Swindon Devils had quite a lot of shots on target, so as I mentioned again, a half decent performance from their attackers, but too sloppy at the back with the marking and whatever else was going on. If you notice the way that Del Piero runs and scores, not great. Let's have a look at the other one, Zanetti. Again, if they have like 3 or 4 kind of or 5 or 6 or even 7 sort of mentions of their name in a long row, that means that your marking is not on point really. But we'll see. It's something for Swindon to obviously address. Igor Biscan is waiting for his chance. Click the match stats. I did it. There you are. Better side, just cannot defend. That's entirely true. That was my point. Definitely did struggle with the marking, but there we go. Did I forget to click on anything? I don't think I did. Let's have a look at the away side first. So Swindon Devils and their transfer activities. So Marc-Vivien Foe, was he suspended? I feel like he was suspended maybe, or injured. He's fine now. Either way, he joined from BTEC for 4 million. I think he got a red card, didn't he? He'd actually did a pretty good job in the first couple of games, and then he had a 5 for some reason. I can't really remember why. He was suspended, yeah. So the 5 is for his red card. That's true. Pretty good. Pretty good performance, I think, for Marc-Vivien Foe so far. And for only 4 million, and he did need a little bit more variety in there, considering that he's had some odd players playing in the DMC roles 5e. So I think a decent bit of business, especially for 4 million. This is great business. I think Paulo Montero was another one who was complaining or unhappy or something like that. So Ian had to sell him, otherwise you wouldn't let Montero go for 13 million. He's a little bit older, of course, than Ferdinand and some of the other great defenders, older than Wes Brown. I still think he's a lot better than Wes Brown, so for 13 million he's a bargain for another 2-3 seasons at least. His only problem, of course, is his tendency to not stay on the pitch forever. He's not had any red cards so far this season, but he has got the 7 yellows already, which of course earns him some suspensions. I shall shortly, Fifi. Let's have a look at the transfers first. And then is the Nigerian Ebiede, who joined from Al Jazeera, who apparently have a football team. Who knew? I thought they made slightly biased TV programs. But either way, quite an interesting player. I think he's got half decent stats. He can definitely come in, maybe if not as a starter, then definitely as a backup. Good acceleration and pace, decent right-hand stats, and overall not a particularly bad player. Good dribbling, good agility, so he can probably do a half decent job in there. And for 650k for a squad player, you can't really go wrong. And as you say, scoring on his debut. You wanted to see something? You wanted to see Sebastian Mendes? Well, there Sebastian Mendes is. 10 games and a 7 average. He's very quick. His heading is not great. His marking is great. His positioning is pretty good as well. Strength is great as well. If anything that lets him down, it would probably be his heading and his jumping. I'm not sure if he's tall or not, but either way, there he is. Ehiok, he's got better heading, but he's much slower. So there you go. And he's got either foot, so you can put them anywhere that you want. But had them the wrong way around. Oh, you're like Hochi. Yeah. You want the left-sided one on the left. Yeah. Swap them for the next one. Swap them for the next one. I know you've already sent me the thing through, but we can have a look at that. So that's Swindon Devils. Did we quick click on Kluivert? 16 games and 8 goals and 3 assists. So a strong performance from him, and lucky to have him, I think, because he's really been a strong attacking force for them. Tomadero also done a decent job. So Roberto, I mean, I could click on these players and say, look, they've all played around 7. Cambiaso, maybe stick with him. He might do a decent job. Holland is wanted by someone and has been playing poorly. Let's see if there's any tactical changes or anything coming up, which will let these players perform a little bit better before flogging them all virtually on the market. So have a look at Captain Mainwright and his troops here. Alf Bridge, obviously. Transfer for him, Vitaly Kutuzov coming in for 7.5 million. I think that's a solid bit of business. He didn't have a great debut, but I think he'll come good. He's got brilliant stats, good finishing, relatively fast. Overall, strong player, I think. Yeah, long term. long-term signing, as Alf says. I think only like what 2 seasons, 3. He should be pretty much dominant in one of those two AMC roles there, behind the strikers. Then he brought in Håkan Mild from from where? From Göteborg for 2 million. That's gonna do wonders for their economy for sure. Although of course in this game, Göteborg or Gothenburg have plenty of players they can get rid of for millions if they want. So not too bad. A decent start, but not the best one in this game here. He struggled a little bit against Swindon, but he has gone on to a relatively good start. And I think I'm not mistaken if I say that he was part of the runner-up team from Stackington from the last time we had a season of this. So an Alf favorite and a strong performer, Håkan Mild. And last up we have Sonny Anderson, Brazilian striker. He's maybe getting on a little bit. Proven goal scorer, isn't that what they call people like that? Definitely a proven goal scorer. Yet really to hit top form at Asta, but again a squad player. And for 7.25, I mean, you're not talking 26 million Montella here. It's just to get a little bit more firepower up front to add to what he already has with the young guys, Smith and Nikolai, and obviously with Hasselbank as well. Failing to really hit top form yet, then it's just adding another option up there, a bit of competition for places. Sonny Anderson and Hasselbank, as we said, 9 games, 3 goals, perhaps a little bit underwhelming from him, but we'll see. We'll see if something comes of this from Hasselbank if his season starts to pick up. But that's something that Alf could really do with a more consistent top scorer. That's something where Asta is really not falling behind. That's a wrong word because they're obviously doing quite well. They're 4th in the table, but their goals are coming from a variety of sources, which is a good thing. But it can also be, let's say, a little bit of a bad thing that you don't have that 10 goal a season striker. Brooking the top scorer, that's really not what you want to see. And Nikolai, of course, I mean, his goals came all in the early on in the season. I think he did his business, or his goal scoring business anyway. So that's how it was. Not keen on Anderson signing for Asta. Already have 3 to 4 better strikers. Yeah, but as you saw there, Andreas, none of them were scoring. So that's maybe you're not talking about actual Fred, are you? Fred had been decent of late. No, he hasn't. He's been decent. If he played for Swindon Devils, you might say he's been decent compared to some of the performances we've seen from that. There's no Manchester United players who've been decent this season. Are you kidding me? Anyway, I presume that was who you were talking. That is who you were talking about. Anyway, last up we have Ardsley Celtic and Hooligans of the Interior. I'll pretend that... No, I won't pretend. I'll be honest and say that I can't even do a Portuguese accent. So there we go. No, he hasn't either. He's been... Let's not derail the chat. That's what Manchester United fans have become. They have become people who think that Rashford has had a good season because they've forgotten what it's like to have players who have actual good seasons. So that's where I'm with Andreas here. Let's agree to disagree, because by Manchester United standards, none of their players have had anything that resembles a good season. So there it is. Match overview for this one: RC Celtic took an early lead. Ronaldinho equalized shortly after. Seedorf, who's back from injury, put them ahead, but Ronaldinho came up with a late equalizer for them. Let's have a look how the goals were scored. Diego Tristan, direct from free kick. That's always nice to see. Ronaldinho tried a volley from an Aymar cross, scored as well. So that's also nice to see. Some potentially spectacular goals here. What is going on here? Seedorf did this, did this, and then Candela did something for about half an hour, and nothing happened. And then Candela did something else, and Milevski, and yeah. They certainly know how to hold up the ball. In the second half, it didn't go so well for them right at the end, but it was Seedorf who bent a shot at goal. Very nice. But ultimately, there was nothing they could do to stop Ronaldinho, who took control of the loose ball and was left with a simple finish with pretty much the final kick of the game. Canizares was stranded and helpless to save. Match stats: RC Celtic dominated really with regards to shots on target. Hooligans had a lot of shots on goal as well, but not as many on target. They are also struggling a little bit with scoring, and Elka obviously did quite well. Elba did not do very well. I think Ronaldo, yeah, Ronaldo had been poor, so he was dropped. So a bit of a concern for hooligans, I think. A bit of a concern for hooligans in their push for the top six, that they have a problem not completely similar to Astra Athletic, but perhaps a little bit along those lines. Let's have a quick look at some of the key players actually before we move into that. Canizares has been half decent for RC Celtic in goal. Okoronko, who was signed, we'll have a look at him shortly. Milevski has been solid again, 5 assists. Not as dominant as we've seen him before, but in other games, but decent. Seedorf is back from injury. This will be a huge boost for Ardsley. 6 games, 4 goals, 2 assists. That's that 1-to-1 kind of average that we speak about sometimes. That is really what you want from an attacking player. They can get either a goal or an assist average for their games. Then they're doing quite well. Of course, we have the striking partnership here. Morientes still averaging more than a goal a game, and Diego Tristan, who is just under a goal a game, but I think sadly injured at the moment for Ardsley. So they are the key players. Riquelme was dropped to the bench after being awful. Lausen dropped to the bench after being awful. Stankovic the same. I think Joe Cole was dropped again for being terrible. And with performances like this, 8s across the board, it's going to be tricky for them to find a way back in. However, Claudio Lopez did not really work that well as a replacement in the AMC role. For hooligans, Kiotis is starting to be kind of okay, I guess, ish. A lot of the keepers have been unexpectedly poor this season, I think, compared to what we've seen from them in the past. Mendieta we spoke about, maybe he was rushed back from injury a little bit, but he's going to be very important for hooligans if they're going to make the top 6 for sure. Kennedy didn't start the season, but has done really well after coming in, so 9 games and 5 goals, 3 assists, a good average for him as well. Aymar doing relatively well as well, but it's really all about Ronaldinho for them. 16 games, 8 goals and 3 assists, and a couple of game-winning performances here. Vieira underperforming as per his standards. That's a 750. I mean, where do we see the bloody tackles? Are they in here somewhere? Team goals. Where's the tackling thing? 4.5 tackles per game. He even does a dribble. Good shooting percentage. I think he's just been unlucky not to get more out of it, to be honest. But I think he's done a good job. If we're looking at him here in his defensive role, he's still getting a bunch of tackles. Of course, it depends on what tactic you're up against, but he's still doing a lot of tackling. We'll have a look at the overall stats of the best tacklers in the league perhaps later on if we've got time. That's an hour already. Not too bad. Let's have a look at the transfer activity for these guys. So if we start by looking at RC Celtic transfers, 2 transfers so far. Slightly under the radar kind of transfers. Okoronko, who joined from Panathinaikos in the Butt deal with Nicky Butt going the other way, if I remember rightly. And he's that left-sided central defender, rather, that Hodgie was looking for. He's got an 8 average in his first 4 games, and considering he paid 3 million for him, he's got to be over the moon with that. Branko Boskovic, we are yet to see. So he's a new signing that's just joined. I know that Ryan and his chairman Chris were like slagging him off, saying, "Oh, he's never gonna make it. He's never gonna get any better." Let's see, Ryan. The stats are good. Come on, give the boy a chance. We've got to bring some new blood into the league as well. That's my opinion anyway, rather than playing with all of the old boys. I'm going to give him a 6 or 7 for at least doing kind of I would say a 7 for good prices and bringing in slightly sort of left-wing players, not left-wing as in communist or on that side of the pitch, but a little bit out of the ordinary transfers, a little bit like Harasimovic at Palma. I'm not saying it'll win you the title, but Ardsley can definitely afford to take chances with the squad that they have, and it's just nice to see that we get a bit of fresh blood, and we'll come back to that in just a few minutes. This topic of fresh blood in the league. Who did they play? They played Senor Thiago, and how does his transfer activity look? He brought Diego Sebastian Crozas from Betis, who's got brilliant stats. He's a central defender-ish type person. sweeper as well, if he ever chooses to go with that. He's kicked out Mexes now, so he doesn't have that option with him. Unfortunately, he's out a month, but that's how the cookie crumbles. And again, a player, I think his stats look really good. He's incredibly fast, which is really important, of course, for a central defender. Great strength, heading and jumping is kind of decent. 15 marking and positioning could perhaps be a little bit better, but I think he'll be a brilliant second choice, and he might even with his pace be really great in that central midfielder, central defender role. When he plays with the back three, I think the acceleration, pace, and anticipation will be very useful for that particular role. Of course, he's got decent players already. I mean, he's got Yakubu, he's got Kamara, he's got Desai, not the youngest, of course, but look at Desai's stats. He's still brilliant, isn't he? So, and Sol Campbell to come back from injury. Sol Campbell perhaps slightly disappointing his stats, but they are great in the key areas. But we'll see how he fares when he comes back. 2 months out with a broken ankle still. So those were the results. We'll have a look at the league table now quickly before we move on to other things. Valen United is they're ahead. They're ahead of everyone else. They got 36 points for 17 games. So if the Parma economy, is it Parma? Why am I saying economy? If the Parma formula is correct, that you need, what was it, 40 points to secure your playoff spot, then yeah, why not? Then Andres is very close. Let's see what the formula currently looks like. So we have got 26 divided by 17 is that, multiplied by however many games we have, 26 in total. So 39.7 with the average that Chudley currently have, and Hooligans and Asta. They should all finish on 40 points. So that will probably, it looks at the moment as if it'll be enough. 40 points still. So yeah, it could be 40 points. That's what you're aiming for, guys. You've got 8 games, 9 games we've got left, and yeah, 40 is what you need currently. It'll be interesting to see who makes it. Of course, it is so tight with these teams here that who knows what will happen. Maybe 1 or 2 will drop off, maybe 1 or 2 will surge ahead, and anything can happen. But Valen, don't put your house on it, but that's a playoff spot. Bolton Phoenix, a lot of things will have to go wrong if they are not going to collect another, let's say, 10 points in the last few games, considering their current run of form, which is games without losing, which is 12. 12 games without losing is good, in case you were in any doubt. Arsenal also on a decent run. I mean, I think it was 3 draws, but it's still without losing. If you're looking at games 1 in a row, it's unusual to go on a very big run. I think it was only really Alf and his Astor Athletic side that did that at the start of the season with a really long unbeaten run. Sloths on 2 unbeaten, in fact. 2-1 in a row is also pretty good, and Chutley coming back into it. Looking at the table again, Churchtown Massive is probably one of the last teams I would say they're not secure at 100%, but again, I would be surprised if any of these 3 don't make the playoffs. They've been so consistent-ish over the season that should really be without a doubt. Then we've got Asta, Hooligans, and Chudley, who are the current teams that are sitting in the playoff spots. Asta with a great start to the season, then dropped off really, and are now coming back in. The same could be said for Chudley. They were also at the top of the table early on in the season. They lost Mark Kerr, and a few other things happened, and they conceded an absolute ton of goals, but they are starting to get back into it now as well. Hooligans have been up and down-ish. We'll have a look at the curve here. Mostly up. Poor start, but with that 6-1 defeat, I think, in the first game, and Campbell getting injured. But then apart from that, it's been pretty sort of going reasonably well for Hooligans. Bolton are probably the Bolton went off to such a bad start, and then it obviously came back, and now they're sitting pretty. Let's have a look at Asta's form. Unbeaten in the first 7, and then beaten in the next, I don't know, many. And now, things are starting to look up a little bit for them again. Chudley Cannons, another team that had a great start, then took a bit of a dive. Looked as if they're going to come back up again, took another dive, a win, a loss, a couple of losses, and now a couple of wins. So definitely an upward trajectory for them. Hornets and Panathinaikos, who were sitting pretty not long ago, have had a poor run recently. The Hornets were even top of the league at some point, but that's all gone to pot for them. Panathinaikos, it's been really up and down for them. This is like a Tour de France stage, this. Up and down really for them. Yeah, I mean, this could almost be inspiration for his next formation. you would think. RC Celtic, what are they doing here? A lot of people were saying with having won the Vieira lottery and having a great squad in general. Don't think anyone below Arsenal makes top six. Let's see. What do you think, Ian? Um, 18 points for Midlothian. Will they get that to get to 40? Considering that they can't win away and they've only got like 3 home games left or 4. Where are they, Midlothian? They played 9 at home. They've got 4 home games left. They need to get to 40 points. They've got 22. If they win all of those 3, that's 12. They need another 8 points from their whatever. From their where are they now? Away record, Midlothian. They're at the bottom, aren't they? From their 5, will that be 5 away games they've got left then? They need 8 points from 5 away games. They've had 2 so far from 8. Yeah, unless something really turns around, then it really needs to turn around for Midlothian, for Slots, for BTEC, for Dragons, and definitely for the Devils. 3 times 9 is 27. 27 add 9 is 36. If Palmer's right, then we have our first team that definitely can't make the playoffs. Not mathematically, but let's see. And again, 21 points in 19. It's doable, but yeah, it's tricky for Sloths and Midlothian now. Let's see their fixtures. Midlothian are away to Sloths. If that's a draw, they're out. The team who loses, if there's a winner, is out. I think I think if Sloths win, maybe both teams are out. If Midlothian win this one, then they're probably still in it. Sloths, it'll be a miracle, to be fair, but they could still make it. BTEC Dragons, guys, it's been nice. It's been a good season, but that's a tricky one. It's a tricky one to get to 40 points from there. 23 points from the last 9 games, considering their form. Things can turn around, obviously. I mean, stranger things happen at sea, allegedly. I'm not sure entirely what, but maybe. Let's not be too pessimistic about it. What else can we have a look at? I promised you that we would have a look at the best tackling defenders. So Nesta is out in front there. Vred, who I missed when I looked at Chutley, is up there with a lot of tackles. Taribo West has done a great tackling job, but it's not always about it because he has been poor apart from making tackles. Gary Neville is one of the strong tacklers, of course, and the strong performers as well. Rustico, Roberto Carlos, so there's not really any surprises here, really. If we look at the midfielders, say Elias has done it really, really well for Hooligans. He's actually overtaken Roy Keane, who made so many tackles per game at the beginning of the season. It was ridiculous. But say Elias has overtaken him in that role. Neil Scally, again, evidence that making many tackles doesn't make you a decent player. That's a 7 for him. Karsten Ramalov, who's his direct opponent in that position, obviously has done a lot better, but made fewer tackles. Attackers, I don't really know why we're looking at that. We can look at the shots on target percentage for the attackers. So there's Thierry Henry. So he will be kind of sad to to find himself on the bench after having such a high shots on target percentage. Kennedy, who's done a fantastic job coming in for Hooligans. Obviously high shots on goal percentage, which has resulted in him getting 5 goals in just 9 starts. Alan Smith as well, 12 starts and only 5 goals. So it's just a percentage. It doesn't guarantee goals. If you want to see guaranteed goals, then let's have a look at the goal scorer table. It's Rossini who's way out in front. We've got Epicent, Morientes, Tristan, a bunch of people on 11 goals, and as we mentioned, Robbie Keane on 9, catching up here. The assist table, I think, is Cafu, is Sambrota. This is just attackers. It's Ferguson, Sambrota, and Cafu all on 8, so it'll be interesting to see who runs away with that one. There's not an out-and-out winner at the moment from that perspective. Conceded goals, Constanzo, not surprisingly. Somehow Ian has managed to get 2 goalkeepers in the top 3 of who concedes the most goals by buying someone who concedes a lot after having someone who already conceded a lot. So 75 goals now on your record. Not all for you, Ian. I appreciate that, but it's still I see the funny side. Landro was down there. He's obviously out now, and Bosnich has come in. Fabian Bartens has left the league. Astor is going with Lehman. They're going with Lehman now. Of the regular keepers, of course, we need to go down to someone like Toldo, who's played 15 games and conceded 14, which is pretty good. And I think for Churchtown, this is Oliver Kahn, who's 17 games, 17 goals conceded, also very very strong. Yeah, but you can be very happy with that, Andreas. Just as Churchtown will be very happy with their performances. No, but I think Bolton, is it because they've not played? Because you need to have played half of the games to appear on the list, I think, or something like that, maybe. Or is that one of the other lists you have to do that? Either way, Eleftheropoulos has done pretty well, an 8 as well. If you need a backup keeper, Andreas, he's right there. Anyway, that's the keeper stats. Is obviously a little bit misleading because it also depends on how good your defense is, etc., etc., etc. Let's have a quick look at the referees. Of course, unfortunately, I can't show you before the game because, as I explained before, the game will reassign referees every time I reload it, so I can't really send you out in advance who your referee is going to be. So it's just one of those lottery things that are going to make the league a little bit more interesting. Safe to say, if Wayne Dade is refereeing your game, and you could you could be in for a bit of a card fest. However, the strictest one is probably Wayne Oldham, who's got 4 games and has handed out 4 red cards and 11 yellows. I never really looked much at these stats. I just think it's quite funny when we do the league to see who's the at the top of the charts. There's another chap here, David Dwight, with 4 red cards as well, another harsh one. So yeah, those are your referees. Let's have a look at the awards. This was interesting. I looked at that the other day. So of course we choose our own team of the week, but one is given. I think Andreas, I think you mentioned no players in the Valen team. This in the team of no Valen players in the team of the week. This is a scandal, etc., etc., etc. They only made the bench on the Australian team of the week, but maybe that was last week you were complaining about it. Manager of the month so far has been these guys, awarded by the league. So Alfie the first time out, Andreas next, then Kieran, and then Ryan, and was the last one. Manager of the month has been, or manager of the month. Why did I say that? This is player of the month, clearly. Shea Given, Morientes, Van Nistelrooy got player of the month. I'm not sure how that happened. And Dede, player of the month for January. Young player of the month has been Nikolay, the first. He was obviously very impressive, as you mentioned. His 5 goals probably all came in the first month anyway. Then it was Saviola, who's been relatively consistent, but really starting to find the goals as of late with his hat trick here the other day. Carini, goalkeeper for Dragons, somehow also made it. He had some good games early on in the season. None of the rest of the stuff, of course, yet. And I think that's pretty much it for the league. Now I'm going to try and do a seamless transition to the transfer overview kind of thing that I prepared with data provided by Mr. Bridge. So this should work. Let's see. We will see if that changes. So shortly you should see something else up on the screen. There you go. My goodness, technology. Me and technology, and this time it actually works. So this is, oh gosh, it's far too small. This is Javier Ernesto Chivanton, who's a Uruguayan forward who plays for Lecce. He's identified as one of the biggest prospects in the world. These are the top, I think there are 10, maybe 12 prospects, and currently not in the Super League as identified by Alf Bridge. I should have made that a little bit more clear, but now I have. So if you've got pen and paper ready, if these are players that you can see maybe going into your squads at some point over the summer, or of course some of you have already done all of your transfer business for the summer, and you can obviously just go to bed now, or you can hang around for the lols. But this is Javier Ernesto. He's maybe not got the highest average so far this season, but I think a very promising player. Looks half decent. Good pace, good acceleration, good flair. That's always something nice for a forward. Good finishing already, and he has scored a lot of goals. So that's maybe someone that could be picked up by a team. I would say someone like Dragons, who needs another creative attacking player that can play both up front and behind the front 2 or 3 or whatever he wants to go with. This would be an interesting player for them. Next up, we have Valney, who's defensive central defender, left-sided, so kind of like a Kivu kind of thing, but young and Brazilian, and with pretty great stats already. He's only 20 years old, captain on 21 level for Brazil, plays for Santa Cruz, which is not one of the bigger teams, so there might be a decent chance of picking him up at a not too bad a price. So very good, very good. And let's see the comments here. Is this by scout rating or potential ability? Oh, okay. Alpha's already replied. That's great because I had no idea. I just took the names and found some pictures to go with it. Left-footed as well, which is something that will interest people like Hot G, 5e, the people who appreciate having a left-footed defender in the central left role, and he's definitely someone. I mean, looking at the stats, if he's one of the highest potential as well in the world, then he's already doing pretty well. So that's someone that could already, I think, do a job for someone who needs a central defender, a left-footed central defender. If you don't buy him, then okay, don't worry about it. You can stick to like West Brown and folk like that if you insist. Um, 12 tackling is a bad combination. Marking only 13. Yeah, but he's only 20. Nowhere near my squad. No, but you also have players that are very good. So yeah, I appreciate that he's not for you. As I said, someone who needs a central defender, left-footed, who don't have like brilliant players in there already, then maybe he's one for them. If they're looking more at the attacking midfielder options, then Sanil Tunchai from Sakaryaspor is perhaps what they'll be looking will be looking at. Um, 24 games and 10 goals in what is perhaps not a great league is maybe not the best, but he's again with these are players with very high potential, so players that you can buy and put in your squad. I think most people should have a decent squad. As Ian says, can we do a top 10 old dudes next time? My squad is already too young. I think you will find that the top 10 old dudes are the players that whose nationality we changed to Australian at the start of the season, who weren't picked up on the or who were scrapped after the lottery and the drafts and all of this nonsense. But I can send everyone the list. I think if you click on if you go to the technical area, the Twitter profile, click on my profile, click on media and scroll down, I think the images are in there of all of the players that we gave Australian nationality to, of more established names. Anyway, Turkish attacking midfielder center. He's at a very small club, can be picked up for peanuts, probably. Um, Next up, Fabio Rockenbach. We've included him because he's, again, these are the highest potential players in the league outside of the Super League. So most people will be familiar with Rockenbach and his stats. Of course, at the start of the game are not brilliant, but he has already 5 caps. His right hand stats are half decent, and he will develop if he gets regular game time. But I'll skip him quite quickly because we know who he is. This guy, I think we had him. I think I had him in one of the youth scouty kind of things that I did earlier on in the season before the transfer window opened. And to be honest, look at his stats and look at this position. There are so many teams that play with that right-sided wing back. Why did you not buy him? Maybe he's poor. I don't know. Maybe he'll never come good, but his potential is very high. He's probably available at a decent price because he plays for Borlenka in the Norwegian league, and and yeah, it's a really solid player if you're looking for that added bit of of I don't know where he's from. I don't know. I don't know where that name is from. It sounds like Vietnam or thereabouts, Cambodian maybe. I don't know. I'm guessing here, but obviously plays for Norway, Norwegian nationality. Not that it really matters. All non-Australians are foreigners in our league, apart from New Zealand Kiwis. So that's definitely an interesting option for someone. We're off to Greece next. Olympiacos is a Ghanaian, Peter Ofori Kwaye. Uh, a lot of people will be familiar with him. He's sort of in the Tsigalco kind of mold with Nikiforenko, maybe quite young with brilliant stats in very specific areas and less good stats in others. But as you can see, they're 20 for acceleration, 20 for agility, great balance, good finishing. His flair is high, his pace is high, strength and stamina are really good. Of course, there are areas such as teamwork His heading is not particularly great, not fantastic creativity, but again, 21, very very young, great potential. Already a sort of a not a regular, but already had a couple of appearances for Olympiacos. So if anyone is looking for a backup striker who can develop into something pretty special, then Mr. Ofori Kwaya is definitely someone that you should consider having a look at in the future. Enzo Maresca is on the list as well. Again, we're talking about high potential players. Whether Juventus would let him go for the Super League is perhaps a different question, but he's included on his potential. 678 average over the season, though perhaps not the best, but someone that can definitely do a job in the future at DMLC if you can lure him away from Juventus or add him to the shortlist in case you don't want to renew his contract or he gets unhappy or bid comes in from other clubs on for him. So definitely an option again if you're looking to strengthen. Then we're going back to Scandinavia for Trond Fredrik Ludvigsen from Bodø Glimt. And yeah, forward right center. He's another one of these guys that can play up front or just behind, kind of like Estebaria, but obviously worse at the moment, but with the potential to be relatively good as well. Great acceleration, good bravery. He's already got the pace. Most of his stats are over 10, 12, which is great for a 19-year-old. Of course, we're not saying that he'll come straight into the squad, but anyone expecting me to find players that aren't already found, there's really no point, guys. I mean, your scouts might come up with someone. We can find one back maybe per season, but it's going to be tricky. It's really up to yourself. The guys that we're going to be recommending on the show and in general are players that are kind of for the future or someone we might have missed. I don't know. I mean, if there are others like Petra, there are some other Premier League players out there that are really quite decent that you can pick up as well. But that'll be up for yourself to find really. Um, Another one that Andreas is not going to like because he's not got high marking or well, his positioning is good, but he's not that fast, and other things are wrong with him, especially the fact that he's a DLC. I don't like DLC never players good. That was some copy paste in there, I think. Anyway, apparently he's another one with great potential. I would say that the guy we looked at, Valney, was probably better than this guy, but this guy is maybe better out in the fullback position with his high crossing, good pace, and 12 dribbling is also not too bad for a player this age. Capped at on the 21 level, and someone who might come in and do a job for someone as well. Again, if you're looking for a young player and you're looking to strengthen in various positions, then you can consider this as well. Strength in depth, I think, is a word that I'm looking for rather than actual replace one of your current starters. This guy I'd never heard of before, Joselito Vaca or Vasa, I'm not sure, Vaca, I think. Um, Great potential again. His stats maybe not entirely impressive as you look at them now, but if you see he's got a good average already. He's got 5 assists in the 17 games. He's been playing quite well for Dallas. So that's someone again for the future. Again, high potential as all of these guys have, and someone that I mean, I think the league and the game in general is flooded with these AMRCs. So unless you're playing a really long game, then maybe this is not for you. But he will come good apparently if he's bought in, plays the right game, along with the guys like Boskovic, like Shuaibu, and these kind of players that come in, Harasimovic. Of course, if you prefer to buy from other Super League clubs, the option is there. But these are just guys that you can consider. Then we have Elin Hanstveit, who's a defender, midfielder, left center. It's a slightly unusual combination, but instead of being DM, he's a defender and midfielder. Don't know if that means he can't play the defensive midfielder, in which case he's going to struggle to find a job in the Super League. But again, a big talent, and can obviously be used as a great substitute because he's so versatile. He will probably need a couple of seasons before he really can be a starter, but certainly one with potential. I can see him being a very, very useful substitute and coming on and getting games for people, covering all of the roles on that left hand side. Again, of course, people choose different subs for different reasons, but very versatile. And we've got Fernando from Juventude. I think it's this maybe second to last one of these that we've got. A defensive midfielder. Again, very, very high potential, highly rated, already capped at under 21 level. 8 games, 2 goals, 2 assists. Great at set pieces. He's fast. His marking is perhaps only 12 in positioning, but he is a DMC. Good work rate and again, great potential for growth in him. This apparently, when I looked at him, I was like, Alf, what is this? And why is he here? This apparently is the player with the highest potential in the game if anyone wants to take a gamble. I'm not going to say anything else because looking at his stats, I can't imagine anyone would want to sign him up. But if you want to play a very, very long game and see how this pans out for Jean-Felix Dorothée, then throw a couple of million at Rennes for a player with like literally five stats over 10 and try and get him to be the world's best left back because that apparently is what he's got potential to do. Very unlucky has the same potential. This is random. Potential 198 out of 200. Sorry, I'm just reading the comments there. And finally, we've got Georgic. There's a United player for you, 5 20 technique. Another one with great, great, great potential. His current stats are actually pretty decent, pretty decent. With good acceleration, flair, set pieces, great technique. His stamina 15 and strength is also good for a young guy at only 20. Long shots terrible, obviously, but there's plenty of room for improvement and plenty of time for improvement here for Boyan, who never really made it in real life, as some of you might remember. But yeah, not a bad player, Boyan Georgic for Manchester United. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, sign him up, Andreas, and see what happens. I'll let you keep him in the reserves. If anyone wants to put the money out for Jean Felix, then I will let you keep him as the secret 25th man in your squad. Whether you want to play him or not is entirely up to you. But you need Valence as well, Edwards. You need if you're getting Georgic and Chadwick, you need Richie Valence as well to complete the trio, I think, of wonderful players. So yeah, if anyone wants him, then please buy him. He won't count against your normal transfer limit, just so we can see what he turns into. Um, those are the highest rated players in the league outside of the Super League, for your information. So if anyone wants to take a punt on any of them, then obviously feel free to do so. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the screenshots. Maybe put them up or save them somewhere. Maybe just list the names. I'm not entirely sure. I really want to make it for people who actually watch, the people who actually tune into the show, who actually get the benefit of this if they want it. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with these kind of scouting reports. But I'm guessing I'm going to leave them just in the broadcast. Apart from that, I don't really have that much to say. We'll have a quick look forward to next week's fixtures. We can maybe look a couple of weeks ahead and just see if we can discount anyone from the promotion game, from the playoff game or already. We already spoke briefly about the importance of the Sloths and Midlothian game. I think Midlothian need to win this one, otherwise it's going to be very, very difficult. Swindon Devils are at home to Ardsley. Ardsley really also need to win this one because I don't think they've got a huge amount of easy games coming up. So they're at way to no, exactly. They have this tricky away tie at Swindon. Then they're in Sweden for an even trickier game, and then they're at home against the Swedes for an even trickier game. Then if Sloths continue their good run, then that's going to be difficult as well. They're not playing Dragons, they're not playing Midlothian, they have just played them. They've actually just played the teams below them here. It's a run where if they were going to get into the playoff, they should really get like say 9, 12 points out of this. BTEC, Dragons, Midlothian, and Swindon if they want to do that. So yeah, that's a tough one for Ardsley, and now's the time. Now's the time if they want to keep up the pressure and get up there. Dragons, that'll be an L, I think, and Ballon will, if not cement, because Bolton might take 3 points as well, but they'll definitely move up to 39. I think is not a nailed on guarantee, but it looks likely. Dragons will definitely, if they're not out of it now, they will be after this one unless they win, which is unlikely. Hornets against Churchtown, that's an important one for Hornets. Craig needs to bounce back. He needs to come up with a good tactic, or revert to the old one and hope for the best. Churchtown will be looking to get back on track after that disappointing defeat at home, and to keep up the pressure at the top of the table so they don't get dragged into that kind of like group of teams in the middle there who are fighting for the last three spots. Chudley against Panathinaikos. That's going to be a hugely important game for both teams. Panathinaikos were looking as if they had really decent chances of getting into the playoffs, but now it's looking a little bit iffy, a little bit dodgy with those options, especially as Chudley are improving at the moment. We'll see if Estebaria and Rossini, I mean, they are very, very difficult to deal with, and fair enough, he is still conceding, Tim, but those two are difficult to stop, and perhaps one at the back will not be sufficient. But we'll see what Palmer comes up with. Chudley needs this one to keep up the pressure on the other teams in the, I want to say, what's a good word for those three teams? They're not the top three. They're the fourth to sixth ranked teams. So that's a good word for that. Anyone, please. Playoff contenders, maybe. He wants to keep the pressure up on that. Bolton at home against Astor. Astor, who are starting to find a bit of form, but as South points out, they've got a couple of injuries, so that could be a tricky one for them. Bolton Phoenix, I think, don't really have anything to worry about. They're doing pretty steady, going quite well. What games have they got coming up? Astor at home, BTEC at home, then a couple of tricky away ones. Yeah, it gets more difficult for them before it gets a little bit potentially easier with Dragons and Midlothian, and then they finish off at home to Hooligans. So they've got a reasonable program to finish off the season with, Bolton there. BTEC, can Ian make it into the playoffs? In that case, he will have to win this game against Hooligans. Upcoming fixtures for the Stormtroopers, for the Star Troopers. What is this? A Bolton away, of course, as we saw. Then they've got Midlothian at home, which is winnable. Astra away, which is difficult. Sloths, a bit of a mixed bag, and finishing off with two away games at Churchtown and Swindon. So it'll be very, very difficult for BTEC to make the playoffs, as we already spoke about. When it comes to Hooligans, yeah, mixed bag for Thiago with his half-track formation. Will he make it into the playoffs? His next two games are BTEC and Midlothian away. 6 points from those two, and then he's well on his way, because then he's got Dragons at home and Sloths at home, which could be potentially another 6 points. So if he takes 12 points from the next four, then he's pretty much guaranteed. If not, then he's going to have to find some points in the last couple of games, which is not impossible. There are, I mean, Swindon at home, Chudley at home, a couple of tricky away games. It's definitely not all over for Hooligans, or indeed for any of the playoff contenders from Ardsley up to Astro Athletic. It's going to be very exciting to see who gets those last three spots. Still got 9 games to play. Still a lot of entertainment to come. I think that's pretty much all I've had to share with you guys tonight. So thanks to everyone who was listening in. Make sure you get your squads in if you haven't done so already. If you've got any questions, if you want to scout any players, any regions, if you've got any questions about the league in general, I think I said already we're going to allow 5 in, 5 out transfers in the summer. That's both Super League and non-Super League. So that's the total of players that I'll allow the transfer on. And it's not to kind of restrict you guys, but it's a huge amount of admin. It's really a huge amount of admin to keep track of it, and it's great that people have helped. But if anyone who's ever worked with spreadsheets and things like that, I can't have, other people to kind of um, try to keep these things up to date, and I'll put something in and they'll put something in, and I want to keep like 100% impartiality as well, so I really don't want to go down that road. So that's it, really. Just to confirm that, any questions, anything, I'm always on the DMs, more or less. And I just look forward to doing the show at the weekend. I think we'll have Hodgie on, so that'll be good. Listen out for the vape pen or whatever it is he's got going on in the background. It'll be good fun. If anyone, as I said, anyone else ever want to join, give me a shout. It's always a pleasure to have you guys on here. I do like the sound of my own voice, so talking for an hour and a half is genuinely not a problem, but I do enjoy having you guys on. Hopefully we'll get Ian on. Of course he couldn't tonight due to technical issues and not being back from the football, etc., etc. So I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. Take care, sleep well, and stay in touch. And thank you very much for listening. Good night.